Good morning. It's Sunday, October 29th. And on Friday night, I watched the first game of the World Series. And that was an exciting game. And I was really impressed with the Diamondbacks, who played baseball the way it's supposed to be played. Hit and run, steal bases, play good defense. Don't swing for the home run every single time. In the end, they lost. And they lost because of the home run. It was a tying 2-run homer in the 9th inning, and in the 11th inning, there was another home run, and the Rangers had won the game. But I was impressed with the Diamondbacks, who used their speed on the bases to score runs and take advantage of the little things, play good defense and everything. But in the end, their relief pitching let them down. So I don't believe that the Diamondbacks are out of it because they lost the first game. And I don't know if the Rangers will continue hitting bombs. But the way it looks right now, the current form of baseball is here to stay, and that's go for the long ball all the time. And we all know that doesn't work all the time because the Yankees are a long ball team, and they were sucky all year long because their major hitter was out and their other great player, Rizzo, was out for long periods of time, and the Yankees just struggled. So I'm hoping they learn how to play next year. But now I must get on to another subject. The University of Pennsylvania is in big trouble. They have alums that want the president to resign. They are angry about a Palestinian conference and Penn's response to the Hamas attack. And they're also angry about transgender rights. So in any event, many major donors have requested that the president resign from the university. Because in 2 days after the Hamas attack killed hundreds of men, women, and children in the surprise attack on Israel, the University of Pennsylvania had not reached out to its students or its alumni with an official statement. But it did send out a message on Instagram honoring the native and indigenous people and their culture, history, and importance as members of the Penn community. And this upset some of the largest donors because the Jews were not included as members of the Penn University community. So Mark Rowan, the chief of a private equity giant, Apollo Global Management, he and his wife have donated $50 million to Penn over the years, was very angry. He was angry because 1,200 Israelis were butchered and murdered, and all the University of Pennsylvania could do about it was celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day. So he and another member, another leading alum, Ronald Lauder, who most of us have heard that name plenty of times before, had pleaded with the university's president, a young lady, Liz Miguel, I don't know how young she is, asked us to strongly cancel or condemn a Palestinian literary conference that they were going to hold at the university. But she said it's free speech. She declined to listen to them, while acknowledging that some of the speakers had a history of anti-Semitism and making positive remarks against the Jews. Right? As a university, she wrote in a statement, we fiercely support the free exchange of ideas as central to our educational mission. But is hate speech? Is anti-Semitic speech educational? How does that allow? If we walked up and said things about blacks or yellows or something like that, people would go crazy. But it's okay to have anti-Semites get up and speak. Anti-Semitism is running wild in this country, and major institutions are contributing to that wildness. So Mr. Rowan and others told the university, told the administration that it had lost its moral compass and it overlooked the concerns of the university's Jewish community. So he called for donors to cut their gifts to $1 as a symbolic protest, and he demanded the resignation of the president and the chairman of the board of trustees. Now, this has been a gathering storm, so they say, and Mr. Rowan told that on CNBC. You know, microaggressions are condemned with extreme moral outrage, and yet violence, particularly violence against Jews, anti-Semitism, seems to have a place on the Penn campus protected by free speech. That's an outrage. It's a disgrace. And some of Penn's most influential alum and benefactors, including Lauder and the former governor John Hudson of Utah, and the law and order creator Dick Wolf, have all joined in pulling funding from the University of Pennsylvania. So can Penn survive with the backlash against it from its donors? I don't know. The tuition at Penn is roughly $61,000 a year, and that's a hefty thing, but I don't know if they can survive without the donations that they receive from these guys. And in addition to this group of donors who have decided that they would only give $1, there's another group of people who haven't been as vocal as these people, but they've stopped giving money to Penn also. So can Penn survive without their sponsorship in being a first-class university? And the Jewish population at the University of Pennsylvania is way down. And that's a bunch of people who love to be educated. So if you're losing people who want to get a great education, that's not a good sign for the university. If you take a closer look at this situation, it's not a one-way street, because there are many pro-Palestinian groups that are standing behind what's going on in Gaza in favor of the Palestinians, who view the Palestinians as a put-upon people, who view them as the victims in this episode that went on in Israel, blaming Israel for the actions of Hamas. It's a disgrace that we have such a divided issue in this country, because this is not an issue of saving people's lives. This is really the backbone of anti-Semitism out in the open, because there's no reason for anybody to side with Hamas in this story. We can all make excuses as to why we do evil things, but it seems that when something involves the Jews, it becomes a world-class episode. And I cite the example of the UN, which has sanctioned Israel more than any other country in its membership, and then accepts everything that goes on in the Arab nations as okay. Their treatment of women, their treatment of minorities, all of those things are okay, but nothing is okay with Israel. So this is just another example of the height of anti-Semitism. And if you've got a student ready to go to Penn, don't go. That's it. Bye.